Welcome to episode 3 of the Big Blues podcast. In case you missed parts 1 and 2, so we're doing our state of the Giants. It's a 3-part series. This is part 3 of 3. So in episode 1, we previewed Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge, and Daniel Jones. We gave our thoughts on them. The big 3, the Holy Trinity, where we stand, on those guys. Part 2, we looked at the offense outside of Daniel Jones. We dove deep into our expectations for Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney's rap career. And then today we're going to be looking, this is episode 3, we're going to be looking at our expectations for the New York Giants defense. Matt, the defense was the backbone of this team last year. Is it possible, is it fair to say that they might have gotten even better this offseason?
I mean, yeah. I think it's fair to say that they got even better this offseason. I do. Especially if the pieces that they added can stay healthy. And that's mainly Adoree Jackson. I mean, and the fact that you're going to probably get Xavier McKinney hopefully for the full year.
Right.
Definitely think the defense got better. And, I mean, they finished 9th last year in points against. So they were already really good, especially with how bad the offense was and how much they were on the field. They were already really good.
Yeah, Patrick Graham, it's funny. I don't think either of us loved the Patrick Graham hire. Now we are praying to God that he doesn't get a head coaching job after this offseason because he was that good of a defensive coordinator last year. So, so when it comes down to it, the expectations on this defense are high. I think this defense heading into it, just from a 30,000-foot view of this defense, I think there are a couple positions where we have some of the best talent in the league, and then there's another couple position groups where we are still lacking pretty severely. Why don't we dive in and talk about the edge rushers first, because I feel like that's one of the positions where we're still severely lacking.
I mean, severely lacking is like for us to be a top 9 defense last year and probably on paper a top 10, 12 defense again this year. The fact that we don't have a single quality edge rusher is something else.
But Matt, what about Azeez Ojulari, who's going to get 15 sacks this year and be Defensive Player of the Year?
So I mean, really, that's what we're looking at, right? The edge rushers are 2nd-round pick Azeez Ojulari and a bunch of no names, really. I mean, obviously we know their names, but around the league they're no names.
We know their names, but I don't want to hear everybody's expecting Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Zimenez to become Pro Bowlers this year. It's not going to happen, guys. I hate to be that guy. It's just not going to happen.
The Giants, and including Azeez Ojulari, who I'm not saying he projects career-wise as being this, but for his rookie season, he is this. The Giants' edge rushers are just a group of a bunch of situational players. They're, Lorenzo Carter, great third pass rusher. If you had 2 other quality pass rushers and Lorenzo Carter mixed in, excellent. Not a top guy. Ryan Anderson, same thing. We just signed him from Washington.
Right.
Nice third guy. Not a second guy. Not a first guy, not a second guy. There is no alpha pass rusher. There is no, this team doesn't have a Justin Tuck, an Osi Umenyiora, a Jason Pierre-Paul, a Michael Strahan, and they have no one that's remotely close right now.
This is a team full of Dave Tollefsons. Do you guys remember Dave Tollefson?
Yeah.
That's what this is a team. The edge rushers are Dave Tollefsons. That's what they are.
I know Lorenzo Carter had a couple of good games last season. It quickly faded away before he got hurt. Like, he was very good against Pittsburgh. I mean, I think after over the course of the season, he wasn't really. If you projected his full year out, it wouldn't have been much better than his second season. So, with that being said, like I said, he's not necessarily a bad player. He's just not someone you want on the field for every down, and he's probably going to be on the field for every down because it's not a good group.
Yeah, it's a weak group. And then they also brought in Ifeadi Odenigbo, who had 10.5 sacks. We'll round it up to 11 like PFF does it. 11 sacks in 2 years with Minnesota, who a lot of Giants fans are hoping can be a good piece too. But again, I still see him as more of a situational guy.
Again, he's another guy who they were rotating him in. Minnesota rotated him in. He wasn't an every down player. Again, there's nothing wrong with those guys. It's just that from the edge rusher position, which is one of kind of your premium positions, you want a blue chip guy there, and the Giants don't really have one. It is a weakness. With that being said, you can supplement a pass rush through different ways. Get some interior rush and some good CB play can supplement a pass rush. So
yeah. And that's what happened last year. So let's move on, because we could beat this till we're blue in the face. Talk about these edge rushers. Listen, every time I see Chase Young play, I want to puke. Okay, I want to throw up that we didn't just tank that game against Washington a few years ago. It makes me sick to my stomach. So we could talk about that until we're blue in the face, right? That we don't have enough edge rushers. But one thing the Giants were able to do extremely well last year was get interior pressure from a guy like Leonard Williams, who had a career year, of course, in a contract year and got a massive contract extension. But Matt, even with losing Dalvin Tomlinson this year, this defensive line still should be poised to be one of the best defensive lines, interior defensive lines in the league. Would you agree?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you have Leonard Williams. You still have Dexter Lawrence, who's a solid player. Great against the run, just okay against the pass. You're hoping to see him take another step forward against the pass next year. But, I mean, you're based, in your quote-unquote nickel defense. If you're throwing Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams out there, you're in a pretty solid spot. On top of that, Austin Johnson wasn't bad last season. He was a solid role player. They still have B.J. Hill, who I really like B.J. Hill. B.J. Hill's another guy who can get pressure from the inside. And then they also added Danny Shelton. So this is a deep group. This is a deep pass rushing group.
Yeah, it is. So there's, really it's one of the strongest units on the team. You almost wish your offensive line was stronger than your defensive line, because this is, pretty much the least important position on defense. If Leonard Williams is getting double-digit sacks, so that does change. But what are the odds, man? I think a lot of Giants fans are going to be disappointed if Leonard Williams doesn't get 10-plus sacks. What are the odds of him repeating that?
Probably not super high. You don't, unless the guy's name is Aaron Donald. I mean, you don't see these guys going double-digit sack after double-digit sack after double-digit sack. Especially it's just not the nature of the interior rusher. Most of the havoc interior rushers cause is cleaned up by someone else, which is kind of why you're hoping that you're getting another guy. But I mean, the second best interior rusher in football is Chris Jones, and he's not a double-digit sack guy every single season. So
right.
I think sacks are, a great man once said, sacks are sexy.
Yeah, and a very great man that Giants fans love, named Ben McAdoo, said that. I mean, he's right. That's like the one thing he was right about. That, and we're not going to get into anything else he was right about. There were a couple things he might have been right about. But, yeah, sacks are sexy. And one thing I like to do is, if you take out player's best season of his career, right, which was for Leonard Williams last year. If you take out his worst season of his career in terms of sacks, it was 2019, where he had 0.5 sacks. They end up being somewhere in the middle. And then if you take the median, right, the median of where they are, if you look at his other 4 years, it's 6 sacks a year. That's the median.
And I think it's 6 sacks a year, Dan. You're right about that, but it's
also, good.
It's sacks are sexy,
and that's fine,
right?
Sacks are sexy, sure.
It's pressure. How is he getting pressure? And we know Leonard Williams gets pressure. Like, over the course of his career, he's always been, a 45 plus pressure guy every single season. For the most of his career, he was in the mid 50s. Last year he had 62. So he's amongst interior defensive linemen. He's always in like the top 10 for the most part in pressures, and that's where kind of he's going to make his money. And he obviously did make his money. Is he gets pressure in the middle, and that's what the Giants need him to continue to do, is get interior pressure. He doesn't necessarily have to be the finisher, but make quarterbacks uncomfortable.
Collapse the pocket, right? Yep. Exactly. So that's him, and then obviously Dexter Lawrence and B.J. Hill will likely both have bigger roles this year too. Matt, will Dexter Lawrence ever be worth a first-round pick in your eyes? I know that's a tough question to ask, but and we didn't really plan on asking that question. But is there any scenario where it wasn't a complete reach at 17 for him?
So he took a step in 2019, from 2019 and 2020 as a pass rusher, right? For an interior guy to be worth a first-round pick, they can't be a two-down run stuffer. They have to be someone who's going to be able to rush the passer. Otherwise, you're spending a first-round pick on a guy that's going to be on the field 50% of snaps, and that's not worth it. So he took a step last year, and it was a step in the right direction as a pass rusher from 2019 to 2020. If he takes a second step, and kind of, because he was good last year at rushing the passer. If he takes that next step and he's like above average rushing the passer, I can say possibly. He's possibly worth it. But he needs to take that step as a pass rusher. And until we see that, it's going to be hard to say yes or no.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, totally fair. Let's talk about the interior linebackers, which this might actually, Matt, be my least favorite unit on the team. Because first off, all the players except for Blake Martinez suck. And I follow Blake Martinez on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. I'm just going to go out and say it. He's like the Derek Carr of defensive players. He's so cringe. He's all into Pokemon. And I'm not bashing people who are into Pokemon, but it's just he's cringy. And he seems like the kid who always like reminded the teacher that there's homework in class. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
there's definitely a little bit of cringe there. I think like he opened like $150,000 box of Pokemon cards or something like that on I think that's why people are talking about that.
Yeah,
I don't know if he.
No, but I've seen it. I've seen it. No, I've seen it all off season. Like people get mad at Kadarius Toney for rapping, and Blake Martinez is over here on Instagram opening up Pokemons. I'd rather have my middle linebacker rapping than being like, let's play with Pokemon.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't care. I don't care about either guy. Like,
no, I know. I know
you don't either.
I know it doesn't really matter. But I'm just observing. It's just he's not like a me. Like, and he's probably a nice guy. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying that like that's just what I've observed.
I think so. Blake Martinez, in terms of like his mean streak is on the football field, and then off the football field, it's just non-existent. Yeah, that's fine.
Which is probably a good thing. That's actually probably a very good thing.
It probably means it's probably very
considering
mentally
you look
very
at
healthy.
the past 10 years. So here I am. I'm crapping on Blake Martinez for having positive habits outside of good, like living his best life and being a good husband and a good father. I'm crapping on him for that. But but in all seriousness, he had a good year last year.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely first half of the year was much stronger than the second half of the year. We kind of saw him get injured. Best middle linebacker that the Giants have had since Antonio Pierce. That's easy,
for sure.
Easy to say. But behind him, the unit is...
It's atrocious.
It's a bunch
disgusting.
Of nobodies. It's like the edge rushers.
It's atrocious. And you know what? This is why it's hard to get mad at fans for like talking about Tay Crowder. But it's just like there's actually a chance Tay Crowder is going to be the guy starting next to Blake Martinez this year. So it's hard to be like, stop talking about guys who don't matter. But basically every year, if Blake Martinez gets hurt, we're going to end up signing like Thomas Davis out of retirement. So.
It's like, but like, it's one of those things, Dan, where like you said, it's Tay Crowder or it's Reggie Ragland or it's Devontae Downs, who was awful last year when he played.
He has a cool name though. Devontae Downs is
a cool name.
It's an elite name. That's an elite name.
Like we don't like talking about those guys. I don't want to talk about Devontae Downs, but the Giants have left us no choice. It's just a giant void on the defense that I do think is going to be filled quite a bit with the 3 safety looks.
True, because Peppers could come down. Peppers could have been a linebacker if we wanted to be.
Yeah.
So
I do think in terms of how the Giants defense will line up quite a bit next year, and not just Logan Ryan, but they also do have Love that can play safety. So I think there's plenty of guys that the Giants can kind of play and fit, so they can kind of supplement that second interior linebacker spot, so that on passing downs you're not relying on Devontae Downs or Tay Crowder or Reggie Ragland to be in coverage against a tight end like Noah Fant.
Right, right. Which is good. And listen, I'm not going to make a big deal out of this position being a little thin because, like, we've seen the Giants win Super Bowls with, like, Jaquan Williams, 6th-round pick, and Greg Jones playing middle linebacker. Like, we've seen that happen.
And because
it was not the end of the world.
And because the interior of the line is so strong, you can kind of get away with having a lesser linebacker in the middle of the field because the interior of the line is making their job easier in terms like against the run. For example, Dexter Lawrence taking on 2 guys against the run makes it easier because there's less of a chance that Tay Crowder or Devontae Downs or Reggie Ragland will even have to take on a guy, in the run game. They might just be able to run free into the backfield.
Yeah, for sure. So that's probably the weakest unit on our defense, I would say.
No, it's
really because there's not even any. It still might be edge, but
you want let's
at
have
least it would be edge, I guess. Yeah,
it's edge.
I mean, all right. At least in the sense of, you could argue if all the Twitter pundits are right and say, Shane Zimenez, Lorenzo Carter, and Azeez Ojulari all combined for 50 sacks this year, which is what some people think. Like, then our edge rushers could be fine. But I guess there's also not that elite, like really good. I shouldn't say elite, but very, very good pass rusher. Like we have a very, very good interior linebacker in Blake Martinez. So there's not that.
Martinez is probably like a top 10, 15 linebacker.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I'd say top 10. I'd say top 10.
Top
Interior middle linebacker. Yeah, I put him in the top 10, no problem.
So I mean, the fact that the
Giants,
put him in
the top 10,
the
no
fact
problem.
that the Giants have him and they're just what's behind him is, I mean, is
really good too.
But I'm saying Blake Martinez.
Oh! I thought you meant the second.
No, like behind him on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I think the issue is the Giants have him, but what's behind him on the depth chart just really isn't startable.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah,
one that
and if
really
he gets
should be a
hurt,
starter.
we're in trouble. Yeah.
But because they have him and the edge rushers have absolutely no one, interior linebacker is at least better in terms of talent than edge rusher.
Fair. I'll give you that. But one position group that's not devoid of talent. Let's just talk about the whole secondary as a whole. Let's talk. We'll do corners first, and then safeties. But it's loaded.
This is the reason. The secondary is the reason why the Giants are, potentially a top 10 unit this year. Is this unit right here, right? The one we have.
And a few ground rules before we begin. I don't want to hear about Rodarius Williams or Isaac Yiadom or Madre Harper. I don't. Or Sam Beal. Well, all right. I don't want to hear about those guys.
The only reason why we're going to touch on Isaac Yiadom is the fact that Isaac Yiadom and Ryan Lewis started the majority of the games last year.
Yeah, and they're not going to be on the team this year.
And I mean, Isaac Yiadom.
Like they probably won't be.
Yiadom might make the team as like the very last corner and play some special teams, but man, oh man, I mean, you need some injuries now to get to Isaac Yiadom, which is great. That's great news.
Which is very good news. That's very, very, very good news.
Because Isaac Yiadom is not bad in a pinch. He's bad when you're playing him 8 games, but he's not bad in a pinch.
No.
So, just go ahead, just kind of start it off. James Bradbury is the best player on the Giants roster.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you can make the argument. Now, again, corner is one of the 4 premium positions. If you look at premium positions, quarterback, tackle, edge rusher, and corner, Bradbury plays a premium position. And Matt, we've basically done the numbers. I've seen you crunch the numbers. He's like a top 3 corner last year.
Top 3 or 4, yeah. I mean, you can make an argument that Jalen Ramsey, Jaheir Alexander, and Xavier Howard were all better than him. But you can't make an argument that there's anyone that's better than him after that. So top 3, top 4 guy. And it's one of those situations where I can probably make an argument that Bradbury, in some way, shape, or form, was better than Xavier Howard last year, probably not overall. But, I mean, I think James Bradbury is probably a top 5 corner in the league. The whole league.
Right now. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that it's tough to argue based on the numbers. It's tough to argue based on the numbers. A guy who he's had a top 5 season. I would not say he's currently a top 5 corner, but Adoree Jackson. The Giants signed him to a big deal, overpaid, just like Kenny Golladay. We touched on that a little bit last episode. They overpaid him. But if it works, you don't care as much.
I still sit here and I question, why didn't they just call Tennessee and offer them a 7th round pick? Because you let Adoree Jackson hit free agency. Now you run the risk of him being signed elsewhere, and then you significantly overpay to bring him onto the team. You could have just traded a 7th-round pick to Tennessee. They would have had to pay him like $10 million, but they would. I mean, it still lasts. And then you could have had, okay, we have a year to try out Adoree Jackson and see if it works before signing him to a long-term deal. That to me is kind of a when I look at that signing and I say, did the Giants do this the smart way? My answer is no, they didn't. They did this the worst way they possibly could have to get him on the roster.
And you're not wrong in saying. Not wrong in saying.
But he is a guy, Dan, who you just said it. He had a top 5 season as a corner, and if he can stay healthy, the Giants now have 2 corners that are probably top 20 options, top 30 options, and that's
where you want to be. That's great.
And I think when I say top 30 option, that's if Adoree Jackson's at what we've seen maybe at the lowest points of his career when he has been battling injuries. When that man's healthy, Dan, I mean, you're probably looking at 2 top 10, 15 guys.
Yeah, I agree, which is really, really exciting. Behind them at corner, 2 young guys, Darnay Holmes and Aaron Robinson. Personally, I think Aaron Robinson is I don't think Holmes is I know he's small, and everybody, because he's small, they want to put him in the slot. But I think Aaron Robinson, who's coincidentally he's very big, he's very long and lengthy, it would be a better slot corner.
So, Darnay Holmes, the Giants as a whole, I think PFF put a stat out about how he didn't allow a touchdown or something like that, and he was one of only he was the only corner in the NFL with a certain amount of red zone snaps that didn't allow a touchdown or something stupid like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something very specific, right?
Yeah, needle in a haystack type stuff.
Yeah, and Giants fans dove all over it. Darnay Holmes is the next great corner. Darnay Holmes is this. Darnay Holmes is that. And realistically, Darnay Holmes struggled for the most part in coverage last year. I think he allowed 75% of his passes to be caught. He wasn't anything special. He wasn't bad for a rookie, but he wasn't anything special.
Yeah. There were some flashes where you're watching him, you're like, oh, I could see that a little bit. And his college shape's not bad. His college shape, though, he played outside corner.
He did. He didn't play inside corner. So there's an adjustment there.
And so, the Giants trying to put him in the slot, and that's why I think Aaron Robinson right now. Aaron Robinson, I'm not surprised Joe Judge really liked him. I watched a lot of tape last year. Matt, as you know, I watched more tape than I've ever watched. I put out my top 50. I had Aaron Robinson, who we took at 72nd, as my 48th ranked player in the draft. This dude has a mean streak. He's really physical, and he's very athletic. And he just makes life hell for receivers getting off the line of scrimmage. He's a really physical corner. And I'm excited about him.
Yeah, I do think that just from an overall projection standpoint of, if I had to say, all right, in the 2022 NFL season, is Aaron Robinson going to be starting over Darnay Holmes in the slot? I'd probably say yeah. I definitely think there's going to be some sort of a timeshare there this year. I think they're both solid options. I don't think either of the guys are bad players. I think the Giants are in a good situation, right? Because Darnay Holmes is at least playable. At worst, Darnay Holmes is playable. Aaron Robinson probably projects at being a better corner. So you have 2 good players. This is you have
which is great.
4 options at corner that can play. That's fantastic. It's fantastic.
It's good news. It's not bad news at all. It's not bad news when you have those types of options at all. So that's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff. So those are going to be your main 4 guys at corners. Again, we're not going to dive deep into all the other guys. And you don't want to see the other guys on the field. If the other guys are on the field, something terrible happens.
And kind of Matt, we talked about this last episode in the offense episode, which you guys should go check out. About Kadarius Toney and how I think the Giants are going to bring him along slowly. We talked about how I think Azeez Ojulari is going to be brought along slowly. I think there's a chance, Dan, that Aaron Robinson wins the day 1 slot corner job. Yeah,
I agree. And I think he's a guy who could be the best rookie this year. And fans are going to really like this guy because he's physical, he's athletic. I really am. When we picked him, I was over the moon. That was a by far our best pick in the draft. By a country mile, our best pick in the draft. So hopefully it ends up working out like that. Let's talk about the safeties because you have Jabril Peppers' contract year. It is a contract year for Jabril Peppers, which is, so hopefully you get his best this year.
You hope, because the Giants have been doing this recently. We've seen it. You hope the Giants planning on at least talking extension at some point during training camp, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to get into March and Jabril Peppers isn't signed on your football team.
Yeah, you don't want to lose Jabril Peppers. He's not a guy you want to lose. He's a guy who could do a lot on the defense, and I've always liked him as a player. I've always liked Jabril Peppers. Back when he went to college, I liked him. I liked him coming out of college as a safety. He doesn't always take the best angles, but he's a good player. He's disruptive. And it seems like the team likes him too. Like he's very well liked in the
good against the run.
Room.
He's good against the run, Dan, and he's very good at covering tight ends. He's not elite.
Yeah,
he's not
right. He's not, but you don't have to be.
But he's very solid in coverage. I mean, so you kind of throw in the fact that he's really good against the run. He's very solid in coverage. He can return kicks, and it's just you don't. He's obviously a leader on the defense too. You don't want to lose Jabril Peppers. You don't.
You don't. And it's almost like the Landon Collins situation where probably a good thing the Giants didn't sign Landon Collins to the contract that Washington signed.
But they never
even though
would
they
have
would not
him.
have had to. They wouldn't have had to sign him to that much, right? He would have taken less money. But it's like Landon Collins was the heart and soul of the defense for the 4 years he was there. And I feel like Peppers in a lot of ways is a heart and soul type player on this team. You just don't want to let guys like that out of your building.
And I do think the hard part here, right, Dan, with keeping Jabril Peppers is the Giants are going to be pressed up against the cap next season, and I can't see him taking less money than Logan Ryan. And then,
and the Giants really screwed the pooch with that.
I don't know if we want to jump into Logan Ryan now.
Let's jump in because I don't hate Logan Ryan. I want everybody to preface this by saying it, but what the Giants did by giving him that contract, that might be like it's not the worst contract Dave Gettleman's ever given out because will always be Nate Solder. But it's just the logic behind it is so flawed when you have a young guy in McKinney, you have another young guy in Love who's a safety, and then you basically take all the money you were paying Kevin Zeitler. You have to cut Kevin Zeitler, your best offensive lineman, to keep a guy who should be a backup safety who's old in Logan Ryan. It makes no sense.
I want to break it down even more, okay, Dan?
Let's do it.
Middle of a losing season, right? The Giants choose to sign
a 6-10 season, by the way.
It's the middle of a losing season. The Giants choose to sign Logan Ryan, right, to a contract. Okay.
Yes.
They know the cap is going down. Okay, so they realistically, this is a 2-year, $20 million deal. Like that's what this contract is with Logan Ryan. Technically, it's a 3-year, $30 million or $30.5 million deal, something like that. But it's really 2 years, $20 million guaranteed. He's going to be on the roster in 2021 and 2022. He's easily cuttable in 2023.
Which is good job, Kevin Abrams, structuring like that at least. But
you go and you sign him this contract in the middle of the season. The cap's going to go down. It seems like the Giants don't take that into account, right? And, I mean, you set yourself up to where you're going to have to either let Dalvin Tomlinson walk, which happened, or you're going to have to cut Kevin Zeitler. Both of those things happen because you went and you signed. Yep. You chose Logan Ryan over those guys. Even though you do have Xavier McKinney and you do have Jabril Peppers, okay? You take zero consideration into the market. If Logan Ryan hits the market last year, and in free agency, he's not getting $10 million a year. The best safety on the market, who is arguably a top 5 safety in the league, and John Johnson, got $11.5 million from Cleveland. He did say he took less money to go to Cleveland. But even still, taking into that consideration, Logan Ryan's never getting that much money on the open market. And that's my problem with Logan Ryan. Because he's not good in coverage. You can't play him man. He can play zone. You can't play him man. Right? So that immediately takes away something that he can do. Because you can't trust him in man coverage. And you have young talent there. What's the point of drafting Xavier McKinney? And now you look on it, and here's the other consequence of things is Jabril Peppers is a better football player than Logan Ryan.
Much better. Much better.
And Jabril Peppers is now going to say, I deserve at least $10 million a year because that's how much you gave Logan Ryan, and I'm better than him. And to be honest, Dan,
and I think Peppers will get at least that. He's probably likely to get closer to 12, I would think.
But no, I actually think that Jabril Peppers, $10 million a year for Peppers is fair.
It's more than fair. But I'm saying, if he's 25% better of a football player, or 33% better of a football player, you say, give me $12.5 million.
And I know the Giants fans love him, and he helped recruit.
I know
Adoree Jackson.
He went to Rutgers. He went to Rutgers, which is like the third best school in New Jersey and then 1800th best school in the country.
But Dan,
I get it.
Dan, when you look at the stats and you watch him play football, the man's not better in coverage than Landon Collins. And the Giants fans love to grill Landon Collins.
Oh,
for coverage, and he's worse against the run than Collins was. He's just as good as a in coverage and man coverage. So I don't get it. I don't get why everyone loves him. I mean, I do get it, but I don't get it. Like, in terms of the talent on the field, he's a solid player. He wasn't worth $10 million a year. The Giants overpaid him. And I worry that that's going to cause us to lose out on Jabril Peppers, who's a younger, better player, because we have Logan Ryan on the team next year.
Yeah, which would be very, very sad.
And it's a realistic possibility.
It's
very
realistic.
It's
not outside the realm of possibility. It's probably going to happen. To be honest, it's probably going to happen.
It's very realistic.
Like, I hate to say
Peppers isn't on the team next year, and Logan Ryan is
decrepit.
And
then all of a sudden, safety is a big issue. We go from talking about, wow, the Giants secondary is so good, to next year we're talking about we're stuck with an ancient Logan Ryan and two young guys, and we lost our best safety. And so it's not a good spot to be in.
That's my issue with the Logan Ryan deal. It's long term. I know it's only a 2-year deal, but it puts you in a bad spot with signing Jabril Peppers. You had to lose Kevin Zeitler. You had to lose Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean,
would you rather have Kevin Zeitler at what we were paying him, which was about $9 million roughly, or would you rather have Dalvin Tomlinson at 2 years, $10.5 million a year?
I would have taken Kevin Zeitler for the year. But
I'm just saying, I'd rather have both over Logan Ryan.
You weren't getting both, though. Like, Logan Ryan didn't stop you from getting both. It was one or the other.
I understand that, but I'm saying, like, if I could only choose one, I'd choose either Tomlinson or Zeitler over Ryan. We chose the worst of the three.
I mean, Zeitler essentially signed a 2-year deal with Baltimore. It's a 3-year deal worth like $20.5 million. But like it's really just like a 2-year deal worth like $15 million. Like, I would have rather have given that money that we gave to Ryan to Zeitler, made sure the offensive line was in a better spot, knowing the depth that the team has at safety, knowing that Logan Ryan is older, and then also knowing the fact that he, if what we saw from McKinney on tape at Alabama, is true in the NFL, which, he's going to be very good in coverage. He's going to be very good against the run. He's just an all-around good safety. And we know Jabril Peppers is already that as well. You kind of you have your safety tandem locked down. You don't really need Logan Ryan. But the Giants overpaid Logan Ryan.
Yep, they did. So it's not ideal, but that's where we're at. I really like Xavier. Let's talk about McKinney and Love. Then we'll wrap this thing up, or we'll answer your questions, then we'll wrap it up. But I really loved McKinney coming out of college. I had a very high grade, and I had a first-round grade on Xavier McKinney. Obviously, last year was a bit of a mixed bag because he missed like 3/4 of the season with like the worst foot break you could have. He broke that fifth metatarsal.
He played 6 games.
Matt, what are your 6 games? So he missed like a third of the season.
And he was good last year when he played, especially for
he was.
He was good for those 6 games when he played.
He had that big pick in the Dallas game, which was fun.
What am I expecting?
He looked smaller than he looked in college for some reason. I don't know why that is, but he doesn't play as big as he did in college, and maybe that'll change. But what are you expecting out of him this year?
I mean, I expect him to be a starting safety. Like I fully expect, and I think as the season goes along, we're going to probably see, less Logan Ryan, more McKinney and Peppers, which is what the team should be doing. But I fully expect, and I think you'll still see plenty of Ryan, because I think they'll do a lot of 3 safety looks. But I fully expect Xavier McKinney, if he's healthy, to be your starting safety along Jabril Peppers. He's going to be playing the majority of the defensive snaps. And I think he's good enough, and he showed last year that he was good enough. Because, I mean, you take what he did last year, right, Dan? You take what the guy did last year, and you sit here and you say, okay, that's a solid starting safety. So he was kind of already at that level. So if he takes another step, you're going to have a really good football player, and you already have a really good football player in Peppers. And I think this is, again, we talk about how strong the secondary is. Safety's really strong.
Yeah, you're talking about potentially like Legion of Boom level good stuff from this Giants secondary. Maybe not quite as good, because I don't know if any of those guys are like perennial all pros, but like our own little version of Legion of Boom with Jackson, with Bradbury, with Peppers, and with McKinney, if everything goes right. And like that's not a stretch to say that.
And guys, like it's weird to sit here and say like Logan Ryan's not that bad. Logan Ryan's solid. Like, he's a solid option. He's not worth the contract that he was given, but he's a solid option. So, like, even, go ahead and you toss his name in there, too. There's plenty of options that the Giants have in the secondary that could make the secondary really special. But, yeah, Dan, in terms of just Xavier McKinney, I mean, the dude's talented.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm really excited for him because I felt really great about that pick last year in the 2020 draft. So, yeah, so that wraps that up there. We got a couple fan questions here that we're going to answer. We touched on this a little bit earlier. This is a very common fan question that we get. So Matt Ryan asks, what are the chances Lorenzo Carter or Shane Zimenez finally have a breakout season? I have a follow-up question. What are the chances hell freezes over tomorrow?
What's a breakout season? Like, are we talking like they're a solid contributor? They finally recognize their Pro Bowl potential that they've clearly had as third-round draft picks. But third-round draft picks don't have that potential, for the most part.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You're a fake fan.
But
sorry, we're
okay.
Just being Giants Twitter.
What are the chances that one of them breaks out and has starter-level production? I don't know, 50%. That would be a breakout. Like, if one of them could be the other starter, that'd be great. I do think, I don't want to say a ship has sailed, but time's waning on that to happen. Like, Lorenzo Carter, after this season, this is year 4. Like, he's going to be a free agent. That would be the total Giants thing that would happen, though. Lorenzo Carter has a 10-sack season. He's going to get 10 sacks this year. Then he's going to sign a $100 million contract and re-tear both of his Achilles and just never play. Realistically, again, these guys project as depth options. They're solid. They're not great. More Carter than Zimenez. We haven't really seen enough from Zimenez yet, but yeah. If the ship hasn't sailed, the ship is loaded. The captain's saying, "All right, get ready to depart," and they're blowing the horn. That's where a lot of the team though is, Dan, right? Yeah, no, it is. It's like a crossroads team. The plane's on the runway for a lot of these guys, and it's about to take off. There, flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff sequence. All right, that's where we're at. All right, let's talk about another question from our good friend Matt Ryan. He also asks, how do you think Danny Shelton and Austin Johnson will do filling in the hole left by Dalvin Tomlinson? The one thing I don't like that we're not doing on this list is we're not including B.J. Hill. And maybe it's wishful thinking because he hasn't. To be fair though, the coaching staff hasn't really included B.J. Hill in anything. And it's so weird because when B.J. Hill is on the field, he's good. So I don't get why. Is he that bad in the meeting rooms? I don't know. What is it with BJ? He seems like a nice guy. Because and on paper, we literally we took him with the pick that we gave Tampa JP pick, and that's the pick we got from it, and we don't play him. So it sucks. I don't understand why he doesn't play. But I'm going to go out here and say that from what I've seen, he should be on the field more than Danny Shelton and Austin Johnson. So I'm going to go ahead and Jax can play at the nose tackle. And I'm going to go ahead and just lump him in there. And I'm just going to sit here and say that, I think those 3 guys are going to make up basically one Dalvin Tomlinson. And that's okay. That's why it was okay that you didn't sign Dalvin Tomlinson to a long-term deal. You could find these interior guys relatively easily that can mix in and kind of be good against the run. So. Yeah. For sure. All right, last question. This was submitted by me. Yeah, I know. And it's a little bit of a scenario. Question. It's my surprise question for you. All right. 2 NFL players.
Logan Ryan, Baker Mayfield. You could launch one of them into the sun. Who are you launching into the sun and why?
It's still going to be Baker Mayfield.
Who are you watching? Yeah, okay. So you're saying you would elect Baker Mayfield to get...
These are like my two strongest takes that I don't like Baker Mayfield and I don't like Logan Ryan.
Do you think you hate Baker Mayfield? Ryan. Right. You just didn't think he's worth the contract.
I don't think... It's the fact that I don't love Logan Ryan as much as everyone else. That's why everyone gets mad at me. I just think he's okay. Like, he's just okay.
Yeah. Because you're a fake fan. So you're a fake fan. You don't really love the Giants. You're so negative all the time.
He's just okay. And whereas but like I wouldn't launch.
Why are you so negative about a team that's had one winning season in the last 10 years, Matt? Why are you so negative?
I don't know, Dad. I don't know.
I don't know either. It makes no sense.
I guess.
You should be positive. This team's won like 6 games in the past 4 years. I mean, like, that's combined. You should be more positive. So, no, but yeah.
If you're listening to this for the first time, you've been around the Giants page. You probably don't know about how much I dislike Baker Mayfield, but I really don't like Baker Mayfield.
Matt, would you rather have Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones as quarterback?
We have a couple first round picks next year, Dan. We could really make a move to get someone.
I understand. I'm just saying right now.
I said what I said.
You're given the option.
I said what I said.
I understand what you said,
Can
but
I
I'm saying
neither?
right now, Dave Gettleman. No, you can't, because Dave Gettleman's feeling he's in Cape Cod right now. It's July. He's sipping a little vino, probably reading, some book about the history of football in the 1940s, aka the golden age of football, and he's just sitting there and whoever's the GM of the Browns now, I don't even know who it is because they always change their GM. John Dorsey's replacement calls him right now, and he's like, all right, hey, listen, man, I'll send you Baker. You send me Danny Jones. Are you doing it?
All right. So here's my issue with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield will never be good enough to do it himself. Like, if he's ever going to do it, if he's ever going to win the big, win the Super Bowl, the Browns have to be loaded. Okay?
I agree.
With that being said, he is a much more talented football player right now than Daniel Jones. And at least you know that if everything is perfect around Mayfield, he can win football games. I don't know that about Jones yet. So I would take Baker Mayfield, but I wouldn't be happy about it.
Okay, fair. We'd also probably at least get a couple Sunday night football games, too. We'd get way better takes from Colin Cowherd.
I would still be...
If we had Mayfield.
I would still... I feel like having Baker Mayfield at quarterbacks, like having Andy Dalton or Kirk Cousins or Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was one of the ones that won it, right? Like, you don't have an elite guy. And without having an elite quarterback, it's so hard to win in the NFL.
It is. It is hard. So, all right. Well, that's our show. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a lot more shows coming up. That was our State of the Giants series. So, again, if you haven't listened to episodes 1 and 2, go to wherever you get podcasts. Listen to Big Blue Podcast, episodes 1 and 2. We'll post them on YouTube. We'll post them on the Facebook page. Listen. Follow us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Giants366. Follow us on Twitter @Giants. Did I just say Twitter?
Twitter. Yes, you said Twitter.
Twitter. I sounded like the mother from the Schitt's Creek show. Twitter. Anyway, follow us on Twitter @Giants366. It's going to be our best year covering this team yet. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, please, because for some reason, every time we try to grow the YouTube, people don't want to. We tried to do like contests and stuff like that, and it doesn't work. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. If you like us, if you like listening to us talk, and you want to hear more of us, go to YouTube right now, hit the subscribe button, okay? So we can eventually get monetized and do this for a living. All right, do it right now. I've tried to ask, like we've asked nicely, Matt. Right? We've asked this very nicely, but I'm done being nice. Do it. Take the 5 seconds it takes. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free, and it helps us.
And if you like making fun of us, and you want to see more of us to make fun of, do the same thing.
Right.
Do the same thing.
I'll give you a 3-hour show every day if I'm able to do this professionally one day. Live show like Pat McAfee does. I'll do it every day. But you gotta hit the subscribe button. Just go do it.
So
all right?
Just to recap. our YouTube growing rate is not our fault. It's their fault.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And also, Dylan Terry's girlfriend said she's going to leave him if he don't subscribe to our YouTube channel. So
majority of the people that follow the Giants page have no idea who that
they
is.
don't know him. That's my Beyond the Boards guy. That's our hockey podcast.
They don't even. Okay,
but, right.
Hockey podcast. Another plug.
But
just another plug.
Yeah, another plug. If you like hockey, back-to-back baby Tampa Bay, go listen to Beyond the Boards. But yeah, so do it for Dylan Terry if you're not going to do it for us. So thanks, guys, for listening. Appreciate it.
See you guys later.